As you all know, I'm reading this book, The 5-Minute Zen Solution, and so here's this week's story. A woman lived on top of a hill that overlooked the village. House was worn, but the roof did not leak. Every day, she came out and she would look up, before she did any of her chores or anything else, she would look up at the sky and count the clouds. The ones that were just smoky, the ones that were rain clouds, the ones that were just passing by, she would count them all. And she did this for years. And the town thought she was pretty quirky about that. But she was past the point of explaining herself. She was past the point of having to say anything about it except this was hers to do. And she did it every morning. Sometimes the little kids in the village would run up to her and count with her because they thought it was a game. She would smile, but she would just keep counting. And this went on for years and years that she did this every morning. One day, a guy comes to the village who'd never been there before, and he was from the city, and he had pen and paper, and he was trying to, and I love this guy's writing. He was trying to catch up to the answers that he couldn't find yet the questions for. And he saw her, and he went up and asked her what she's doing, and he looked up and he goes, "Are you checking the weather?" And she goes, "No, I'm checking myself." And so for the first time in his life, he put down his paper and pen, stopped asking questions. And for the night, for the day, he spent counting the clouds with her. Next day he was gone and she was by herself again. But something had shifted in her. Now when she looked up, she stopped counting and just let the clouds pass by. And I forgot the word. I lost the word there. The question that he leaves you with to think about for the week is, what are you naming that you could have let pass by? And so I've been sitting with that all week. And Ash and I've been reading this to her each week, and so I read it to her, and she says, "You know, you're always naming things as not good. I hear you say that all the time, that that's not good." And I thought, oh, she's right. And so, as you know, I believe in living my soul's intention. And on Monday, I got a very clear message. It was time to leave town and to take myself on a little Zen retreat of my own making. And so I sent a little message off saying, I will not be available on Tuesday. I'm taking the day off. It's a personal day. Left Monday night, went up to a place called Grand Cache. And I don't know why. That's just where I was told to go. Right? So I go up to Grand Cache, and the town's not much. This is not like Jasper, right? It's not a cute little town. It's a mining town, and it has a penitentiary. And so I'm talking to Ash that night and saying, I have no idea why I'm here. And so, but I'm not naming things. I'm just being with that and letting it pass by. Let's see what happens. The next morning at 5 a.m., something loud happens in the motel room next to me, wakes me up, and the first words out of my mouth are, "That's not good." And then I start laughing, and I go, "Welcome to my Zen retreat." So I said, okay, back to not naming. So I went and had breakfast, had my dog Buddy with me, and so we got in the car, and I'd heard about and I'd gotten this map at breakfast, hiking trails. And so I picked one, and we went out there. And it was this really long, dusty road to get to the end of the road to get to where the hiking began. And we got there, and there was 2 trails. One that was obviously not very far, that overlooked the river, and another that said it went to a waterfall. And the length of the trail was about the length I usually hike, about 4K out, 4K back, which is what I usually do in Elk Island. I said, okay, we'll take that one to these falls. That's at the end of that's the end of the hike. And so we start hiking, and the thing about Elk Island is it's pretty flat. This was not. It starts out going down, and then goes up pretty, and then down, and then up again like this. And so I'm hiking on this thing, and I reach this field of herbs. I recognized the flowers because I'm an amateur herbalist. I make my own concoctions. And so I recognized all these flowers that I actually use in my concoctions, and I'm standing there with it, and everything shifts. What I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing. You would have thought I was on mushrooms, but I wasn't. But it was that kind of experience. Things are moving, and I'm just standing there going, oh, and then I hear a communication that says you don't need to ingest to feel the healing. And so I lie down and felt the healing, and I'm bawling my eyes out, and I'm there in this transformational moment, right? Just taking it in, fully taking it in, just letting myself just be with that. And I thought, oh my God, this is incredible. This is why I'm here. And so I was with that for a while. I can't tell you how long. And then I felt it passed, and I thanked all the plants, and I thanked everything. Got up, and we walked, and the funniest part was the falls were about as dinky as it gets. That was not the reason for being on that trail. But on the way back, I saw a trail that I didn't see at all walking out, that took me out onto this ledge that had this view of the valley that was extraordinary. So Buddy and I sat there for a while. And then we get down to the bottom, and I'd heard about a beach that was on a lake there. So we drove to the beach and we were the only ones on the beach. There was nobody else there. And so we had it all to ourselves, and we're walking along, and out of nowhere appears this indigenous elder. And she comes over, and we start talking and laughing, and after a while she hands me 3 eagle feathers and says, "These are for you." And I was like, wow. That made for quite a Zen experience. So, of course, I couldn't wait to get back to the room and tell Ash all about it. But I was also just sitting in it. I was just sitting in it. And one of the first thoughts I had around this experience was transformation does not rectify, it transmutes, which is something I've said here on this stage a lot. Transformation does not rectify, it transmutes. What I had was a transformative experience, not a rectifying. Nothing fixed, nothing thought of as broken. And yet the healing was so deep. Transformation does not rectify, it transmutes. It's a big part of our teaching, is understanding the difference between we're going and we're trying to fix something, or when we're allowing for the transformation that's truly possible within us. And so there was no naming. Do you know? It was just like I was just being there with this transformative experience. And I came back on Wednesday, and was just sitting with how does this impact my teaching? How does this impact how I am in the world? How does this impact everything that's going on? And I started looking, sitting with all that, meditating with all that. Feeling the place where we're so quick to want to fix stuff. I mean, not just in our personal lives, but out in the world. We go, this is not right. This is what's going on is wrong somehow and needs fixing. And this should be better. We should treat each other better. We should do this. We're shooting on ourselves all over the place. And in that shooting on ourselves, there is no transformation. There is none. When we look out at the world. And so I started thinking, like I like to do, in terms of 10, 20, 50,000 years, 100,000 years. And I started recognizing this pattern of we have this triangle, right? That we talk about a lot. It's called the perpetrator, victim, savior triangle, right? And many people are aware of this triangle and know that the object of the game is to transform yourself, to rise above it, to not be in that triangle. And yet, with the world, society, humanity is in this triangle and playing it out on this huge stage called planet Earth. We treat people like victims all the time. We feel like victims all the time, and they really do look like they're being victimized. It's not like there's pain, right? Remember last week I spoke to you about the fact that actually transformation can have pain in it. There's pain in transformation. It's not always, hugs and feeling all good. And I think that that's true on a world scale, and we miss it. Because we get caught up in the pain. And this is not to lack compassion. I have tremendous compassion for people's pains. I feel it deeply. On top of that mountain when I was sitting, that was one of the things I was crying about, was feeling all the pain in the world. It's deep and it's hard. And we come into this life, wanting to have this incredible experience and can get caught up in the pain of it. And thus suffer. And so what I started seeing is how this same triangle plays out in the larger scope of humanity. Like how the Persians would liberate people from the Romans, and so they'd be liberated, but now they'd be under the oppression of the Persians. This goes on and on and on, right? Castro was the great liberator of Cuba, and then became the next oppressor. It's throughout history. This is how it's played. And the reason it plays that way is because we have this tendency to want others to liberate us. The latest oppressor that I hear people talking about is billionaires. Billionaires are now they're the reason for poor people, is billionaires. And if we just got rid of the billionaires or made them give up all their money, then there wouldn't be any poor people. I hear that argument over and over and over. That as long as there's a few people taking all the resources, there isn't enough for everybody else. Well, that may or may not be true in an expanding universe that has an infinite amount of resource, right, that we keep thinking is somehow limited, which is our doing, thinking of it that way, that somehow resources are limited because other people have told us so, or it looks that way. Right? That then we're playing into the same consciousness that has always been there since the beginning of humanity. Nothing has changed. And as long as that happens, all we're going to do is have the next let's say we got rid of all the billionaires. We took all their money. You don't think something else would then pop up as the next thing? Because that's what's always occurred since the beginning. And so if we keep doing the same thing, and what's insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And yet, we do that in our own lives, and the world has been doing it since the beginning. And so the shift here is consciousness itself. That's how you get out of the triangle. That's the triangle that everybody's in, humanity's in. It's the same thing. It's not different. It's not different. It's the same triangle playing out in the world. And so it's up to us to find that place of transformation instead of fixing. Transformation does not rectify, it transmutes. And it does. I can feel it. I have felt it in my own life so many times now, over and over and over. How I keep shifting, keep changing. I'm not the same person. I know I keep telling you that. But I am still constantly amazed by that. How we can shift as people. How we can become something new, which means society can too. Right? The fact that we can do it as an individual is proof, positive, that society can. It just hasn't yet. But how does society do that? Not by us telling them to, but by us continuing to shift as much as we can ourselves. And that's what's possible here. That when we engage in the practice of transformation, when we engage in that practice and not get caught up in whatever the circumstances we think we need to take care of, we need to fix. Now, am I saying don't take care of those things? I'm not saying that. I'm saying first, see who you're being in that. See how you're approaching it. And then watch what happens to your actions then. Because I've noticed they're different. I do not take the same action as I would take when my ego is so sure I need to fix something. And trust me, my ego definitely thinks it needs to fix stuff. I am not up here saying that I am perfect at this. I'm just saying that's the practice, is to go, oh, there I am again. Thinking I know best, thinking I know how to fix this, thinking this is the way to do it. Instead of going, wait a minute, what if I sit back here, take another deep breath, see if I can get to that place of transformation, and then see what shows up. And the more I do that, the more I get to experience plants talking to me. Feeling like I'm on mushrooms without having to take them. The awe of life. The awe of it. It is really something to be in the awe of it. Because we're here for a short period of time, man. It's a blip. And I know that's what makes us feel urgent and want to see those changes and see society change and see everything go different right before our eyes, because we want to do that while we're still here, before we're gone. And that's totally understandable. It's just that there's another way to do it. That when we get beyond our own sense of limitation, right, in the resource we call life, our life, because it feels very limited to us. We can then, when we are willing to see that there is something larger going on here, then we can lean into that. We can lean into that which is larger than what we think of as our our finite life. And when we do that, for me, let me speak more personally around this. For me, as I have been doing this, that's where I feel that level of compassion, kindness, love of others, humor, all these, the awesomeness of all of it. There's something so awestruck. I mean, as I look, right? I've spoken to you, I love looking at humanity from 100,000-year perspective. It's really fun for me. It's not fun for everybody. This is personal. It's fun for me to just see what's gone on and how we've developed. I was talking just the other day about how it isn't, somebody was saying that because of the pyramids and because of other things in the past, aliens must have come here to give them that knowledge. And it occurred to me that that's not true at all. That our DNA is infinite in its possibility. And things can show up, and then they can disappear, and then they can show up again over here. And then it's like here, there are pyramids all over the planet, right? It isn't just in Egypt. This was knowledge that popped up in places where they didn't have the communication to share that kind of math. And yet it occurred. We know that supernatural things are going on. In our bones, we know there's more to life than the physicality, the finite physicality that sometimes we get stuck dealing with or thinking about, needs dealing with, or get stuck in the emotions around that. We know that there's more, and yet we forget. And we forget a lot of times when we really need it most, which is why practice is so important. I dedicate my life to practice because I have found that is the place, where I get to remember more and more that this is an awestruck experience. Being alive itself is just extraordinary. And what we do with that is in our hands. It is not limited by anything going on. The results of what we do may be limited in some way and not turn out the way your ego had hoped. But who you are is unlimited. Who we are is unlimited. And that's what I keep seeing again and again and again, is who I am is unlimited. I get to keep growing in this. I get to keep seeing what's my next step. And I ask you, what's your next step in your transformation? I don't care how young you are. I don't care how old you are. If you're still here, walking on planet Earth, crawling on planet Earth, you have a next step to your transformation. And I urge you to take the time, to spend the time to ask the question, not is what is my next step to do, but what is my step in being, in transforming? Because you have one. We all do. That is our, anybody who thinks, what's my purpose for being here? It is to transform. And in that transformation, you will share the gifts that are yours to share, as I continue to do. This is what's possible for all of us. If you keep asking the question, powerful questions, if you keep asking the questions, the answer is there for you. I love prompts. That's the word that I lost earlier, prompt. Have a prompt for yourself. Keep asking those higher questions because they will transform your life. You get stuck in the day drama, in your daily drama of what it is you're doing, there's no transformation there. I don't care how good you fix it. There's no transformation there. Transformation, personal transformation, becoming who you have come here to be, is in the wonder of what is your next step in your transformational journey. I know the possibility, and I know it for each and every one of you here. I love you. Thank you.